New Pogodi is a Soviet-Russian animated series produced by Soyuzmultfilm. The series debuted in 1969 and became popular in the Soviet Union and Eastern Bloc countries. The latest episode was produced in 2006. The series follows the comical adventures of a mischievous yet artistic wolf trying to catch, and presumably eat, hare. It features additional characters that usually either help the hare or interfere with the wolf's plans. The original film language is Russian, but very little speech is used, usually interjections or at most several sentences per episode. The series' most common line is the titular "New Pogodi," recited by the wolf when his plans fail. It also includes many grunts, laughs and songs. Characters: the hare, commonly transliterated into English as Zayats, is portrayed as a supposedly positive hero. He gets much less screen time and is less developed than the wolf, and most of his actions are simply reactions to the wolf's schemes. In later episodes, the role of the hare becomes more active and developed, and he even manages to save the wolf on several occasions. The hare is portrayed as a percussionist in a number of episodes. The character was originally voiced by Klara Rumyanova. The hare is almost always seen wearing the same green t-shirt and dark green shorts, unlike the wolf's ever-varying wardrobe. There are rare exceptions, however. In the prologue of episode 8, he appears in an ice skating outfit, and later on in the same episode he is dressed with intentional absurdity as the grandfatherly Ded Moroz, the silliness of which is only heightened by the wolf then appearing as his granddaughter, Snegurochka, aka the Snow Maiden. The wolf, commonly transliterated into English as Folk, is initially portrayed as a hooligan who eagerly turns to vandalism, abuses minors, breaks laws, and is a smoker. His appearance was inspired by a person the director Vyacheslav Kotlyarchkin saw on the street, specifically a man with long hair, a protruding belly and a thick cigarette between his lips. The character was originally voiced by Anatoly Papanov. His most common line throughout the series when things are not going as he expected is "New Pogodi." At the end of an episode, the wolf usually exclaims the series' titular phrase "New Zayats, New Pogodi," which translates as "Well, hare, just you wait." In spite of his rough appearance, many of the wolf's attempts to catch the hare are often characterized by unexpected abilities on his part. For humorous contrast, he can also play the guitar very well and rides a powerful rocker motorbike. In the first episode, while climbing a high building to catch the hare, the wolf whistles the popular mountaineer song, a song about a friend. In spite of these talents, most of the wolf's schemes eventually fail or turn against him. During the late Soviet and post-Soviet era, however, the wolf gradually became more buffoonish than menacing. In the last episode, for example, the wolf is seen chewing a lollipop instead of smoking, and his drawing style is reminiscent of new Russian cartoons rather than the old Soviet slapstick genre. The wolf became increasingly timid or even outright cowardly during this time period, contrasting sharply with his initially macho persona and actor's voice. The wolf's most characteristic piece of clothing is his bell-bottoms, which can ambiguously be either part of naval uniform of the 1970s fashion. He is most often seen in a pink shirt with a yellow necktie, but occasionally appears in a naval undershirt, and in episode 8, he appears in drag, impersonating the Snegurochka. In episode 11 he wears a jacket in the beginning, but soon removes it when chasing the hare. Not infrequently, he loses most of his clothes during the chase, going on in his chintz underpants only, though in episode 6, he retains only his shirt and pulls it down to cover up his naked hindquarters. Humorously, all of his clothing below the waist has a special opening for his tail. In episodes 1 to 16, the wolf's hairstyle is basically unchanged, though in episode 14 his hair gets briefly done in a style not unlike Elvis Presley's. In episode 17 he wears a ponytail, and in episode 18 his forelock is cropped and the mullet is tied into a ponytail. However, in the two final episodes he resumes his earlier hairstyle of episodes 1 to 16. Other characters. The story also features a supporting cast of animal characters, the most commonly appearing of which is the physically strong and heavy hippopotamus, who participates in various roles and whom the wolf usually annoys and has to run away from. In episode number 5, the hare finds the wolf hidden among watermelons. The hare recommends to the passing hippopotamus, who's also looking to buy melons, one which actually winds up being the wolf's head. Hippopotamus squeezes wolf's head to test the ripeness of the watermelon, and inadvertently forces him out of hiding. The episode ends with wolf sliding down into the Moscow metro and slamming head-on into and ending up under the hippopotamus. Another repeating character is the cat, who is an illusionist and appears in several stage performances throughout the series. The cat is shown to be a good magician, but very self-absorbed and highly sensitive to applause. In episode number 9, the cat traps the wolf in his levitation act. He drops the wolf twice in his act to acknowledge and accept the applause from the hare. One of the most appearing on-screen secondary characters in a single episode is the sea lion, who is the uniformed Navy captain of the ship in episode number 7, who keeps interfering with the wolf's attempts at boarding the ship and/or attempting to capture the hare. However, once the wolf is on board, he pretends to mop the deck in front of the captain, tricking him into believing he is one of the crew members. The captain is later seen closing the lid on top of the boat's storage room, which results in the wolf and hare to be trapped together in the darkness. Other animals are shown in the series, including bears, red foxes, elephants, beavers, dogs and pigs. Production 1960s to 1980s. The original script for New Pogodi was created for the animation studio Soyuzmultfilm in Moscow by the writers Felix Kandel, Arkady Kates and Alexander Kurliansky, whose works included humorist and satirical writings. Most directors of Soyuzmultfilm rejected the script, but Vyacheslav Kotly-Yonochkin was convinced by the idea. However, Gennady Sokolsky was the first person to direct the cartoon, more specifically a pilot of it, which was given the name New Pogodi. A 2.5-minute short film with character designs very different from the later series was created, but it already featured the wolf's titular catchphrase. It was shown as part of the first episode of the animation magazine Veselaya Carousel in 1969. Kotly-Yonochkin wanted the wolf to be voiced by the actor and singer Vladimir Vysotsky, but was not given permission by the officials. The actor Anatoly Papanar was approved instead. Actress Klara Rumyanova, who commonly voiced cute and small characters, received the role of the hare. Svetozar Zakov was responsible for the visual design of the series, including its characters. In case of the music, the majority of the soundtrack throughout the series during Soviet times was edited directly from existing international records, though there were also original compositions. The first episode aired in 1969. New Pogodi was not intended to become a long-running series, but the cartoon reached immense popularity and Soyuzmultfilm received many letters from viewers asking for more adventures of wolf and hare. Therefore, production of new shorts continued into the 1980s. However, it was temporarily halted for political reasons after the 7th episode in 1973, as scriptwriter Felix Kandel and his family wanted to emigrate to Israel, but were denied by the Soviet authorities. Nonetheless, production soon resumed, though without Kandel as New Pogodi. Viewers were among the highest party leadership. Episode 16, the last film created during the Soviet era, aired in 1986. The series was put on hold after the death of Anatoly Papanov in 1987. 1990s to present, it turned out that all outtakes of Papanov's work for the series had been archived. The voice samples were used for the creation of the 17th and 18th episode in 1993. They were produced by Soyuzmultfilm in collaboration with the Ukrainian Institute for Professional Advancement of Film, Television and Radio Workers, and were co-directed by Vladimir Tarasov. The 17th episode in particular was dedicated to the 25th anniversary of New Pogodi. Both shorts are notable for the use of product placement for the sponsor of the films, AMT, as well as for Nokia. Kotoyonochkin's son Alexei Kotoyonochkin, who had also become an animation artist, took part in the production, although he had unsuccessfully tried to convince his father not to participate. The two episodes were met with negative reactions. In February 2005, the supermarket chain Pyat Yurachka announced that they had purchased the rights to create two new Pogodi films. The idea to support the production of new episodes arose during a corporate party of the company in 2003. Late Vyacheslav Kotoyonochkin's son Alexei was offered to direct them, but initially hesitated to accept, as he was not sure whether the standard set in Soviet times could be achieved, and also because of the failure of the 17th and 18th episode. He eventually agreed and assembled a team of young animators at the studio Christmas Films, their average age being 30. The production was funded by Pyat Yurachka with a budget of $400. The scripts were written by New Pogodi co-creators Alexander Kurliansky and Felix Kandel, the latter being involved in the creation of new episodes for the first time since more than 3 decades. The actors Igor Kristenko and Olga Zvereva became the new voices of Wolf and Hare, respectively. It was stated that the voices are virtually indistinguishable from the original ones. It was not possible anymore to simply insert popular international music into the shorts like during Soviet times, as copyright had to be taken into account now. The budget did not allow for obtaining music rights. Therefore, it was decided to approach a domestic artist, namely Andrei Urzavin of the band Machine of Remini, who immediately agreed to create a diverse soundtrack. In an interview, Kotoyonochkin noted that New Pogodi, a Machine of Remini, debuted the same year. On the 16th of September 2005, a costume parade was held on the Arbat in honor of the cartoon's revival. The premiere of episode 19 took place on the 22nd of December of the same year. Unlike the previous 2 episodes, the Pyat Yurachka-funded shorts are free of advertising. The sponsor is only mentioned in the credits. For 2 years, the latest 2 New Pogodi episodes were largely unavailable to the public and were only shown at certain film festivals. However, in late December 2007, a DVD was finally released in Russia which contained the 2 films, as well as a making-of film and comics drawn by Alexei Kotoyonochkin. As of now, it is available only in the supermarket chains Pyat Yurachka and Perekryostok. Regarding questions on a possible continuation of the series, Kotoyonochkin stated in 2006 that it is impossible to produce the series endlessly, and that they didn't intend to copy Tom and Jerry. If a follow-up was made, it would be very different from the existing films according to Kotoyonochkin, possibly a full-length film in the format of 3D animation with a brand new story. critical and popular reception. The series was, for many years, hugely popular among the Soviet public, and it is popular in the Federation to this day. The critical reaction of the director's colleagues was less favorable. The director's son Alexei Kotlyanochkin recalls how, although nobody said it to his father outright, the animators and directors of Soyuzmultfilm generally considered new Pogodi to be of low class. For his part, Vyacheslav Kotyanichkin was not a follower of auteur films, and considered them to be examples of someone needlessly showing off. Kotyanochkin disliked subtexts and tried to create very simple, straightforward scenarios. The main idea of the series was simple: don't hurt the little guy, you will yourself get into a foolish situation. Because the series was so popular, however, it was often a subject for critical discussion and speculation, namely, that the series represented the struggle between the intelligentsia and the working class. Alexei Kotlyanochkin dismisses these interpretations as groundless. Since the 1990s, when the fall of the Iron Curtain allowed better exchange of films, both Russian and Western audiences have noted similarities between new Pogodi and American cartoons, the most noticeable being Tom and Jerry. The director has admitted that he was learning from Disney animated films which were brought into the USSR from Germany immediately after World War II, particularly Bambi. However, he did not see any Tom and Jerry episodes until his son bought a VCR in 1987. Thematically, new Pogodi places greater emphasis on various real-life situations and locations. List of episodes. The episodes of new Pogodi were not named but rather numbered. Each episode has a different setting. There was also a promotional 30 minutes long episode show including various characters from Soviet cartoons released in 1981 called The Lost Episodes. The show featured 3 never-before-seen sequences of new Pogodi of approximate 10 minutes length and were not re-released for home entertainment in spite of various full episode collections. They can, however, be seen on television on some channels during children's cartoons time and are viewable through web video recordings. In 2001, the characters were reused for a series of Next Bumpers for Teletoon, produced by Chuck Image Animation. In August 2012, it was decided television airing of the cartoons would not cut out scenes of the wolf smoking because of laws prohibiting material deemed harmful to children. An agreement was made: we will not cut anything, not even one cigarette. Cast and crew. Directors Vyacheslav Kotyanochkin -1 to 16, Vladimir Tarasov -17-18. Alexei Kotlyanochkin -19-20. Screenplay Felix Kantol -1 to 7 and 19-20. Arkady Kate -1 to 16. Alexander Kurliansky -all. Main animators. Character developments Svetozar Zakov -1 to 16. Alexei Kotlyanochkin -17-18. Svetlana Davidova -19 and 20. Voices Anatoly Papanov -1 to 16. Klara Rumyanova -1 to 18. Igor Kristenko -19-20. Olga Zavareva -19-20. Gennady Kazanov -9. Vladimir Soshalsky -15. Camera Yelena Pietrova -1 to 6. N. Klimova -7. Svetlana Koshaeva -8 to 14. Alexander Tchaikovsky -15-16. L. Krutovskaya -17-18. Sound directors Georgy Martynyak -1 to 10. Vladimir Kutuzov -11 to 18. Editors Tatyana Sazonova -1 to 7. Margarita Mishaeva -8 to 18. Animators Viktor Arsentev -1 to 15. Oleg Komarov -1 to 13, Viktor Lychasev -1, 3, 4, 7, 9, 11, 13 and 15. Oleg Safronov -1, 2, 9, 10, 14 and 15. Vladimir Kruman -1, 5, 10, 11, 13 and 14. Fedor Eldanov -1, 3, 6, 7, 12, 13, 15 and 16. Vladimir Zarubin -2, 4 and 9. Leonid Kryukov -2, 5 and 7. Valery Ugrov -3, 8 and 16. Sergei Dishkin -3. Yuri Buterin -3, 4, 8 and 9. Svetlana Bauthalo -3, 4, 8 and 9. Vladimir Arbakov -8, 12 and 17. Alexander Panov -7. Alexei Bakin -8. Alexander Davidov -10, 13 and 17. Alexander Dorogov -14 to 16. Nikolai Fedorov -12, Alexander Mazev -15 and 16, Sergei Avramov -14, Olga Orlova -16. Music. A number of memorable tunes were written or selected to match the action sequences of the cartoon. The majority of the soundtrack was edited directly from various international lounge and dance LP records from the 1960s-1980s, many of which were part of the music supervisor's personal collections. These recordings were not listed in the credits, so the origins of some remain obscure today. Some of the known performers whose music was featured in New Pogodi are Chico Buarque, Herb Alpert, Nikolai Rimsky-Korsakov, Digital Emotion, Gunter Golash, Vyacheslav Masherin, Bill Haley, Ted Heath, Leroy Holmes, Helena Kunika, James Last, Muslim Magomayev, Paul Marriott, Hazy Ostwald, Pesnieri, Edita Pieka, Frank Porcel, Perez Prado, Alla Pugacheva, Valery Leontiev, Eric Rogers, Earl Scruggs, Igor Sklar, Terry Snyder, Studio 11, Mel Taylor, Klaus Wunderlich, Billy Vaughan, Helmut Zacharias, Zemlyan and Yuri Antonov. The opening credits theme was edited from Vizusi, written by Hungarian composer Tamás Deacon, performed Magyar Radio Tankazene Kara and Amp Harmonia vocal. Sometimes the words of the songs were modified or altogether substituted to correspond to the action, and a New Year's holiday song was written especially for the series. Originally, the cult Russian singer-actor Vladimir Vysotsky was cast for the voice of Wolf, but the studio did not get the approval they needed from a Soviet state organization to use him. However, some homage to Vysotsky remains, as in the opening episode, Wolf is whistling his Song of a Friend. When the 19th and 20th episode went into production, times had changed and the music rights would have to obtain first, which was not possible with the budget. A national artist, Andrei Urzavin of the band Machine of Remini, was contacted instead, who composed the music for the films. The shorts also feature excerpts of pre-existing Machine of Remini works. Soundtrack Episode 1, City and Beach, Song About a Friend. Last Electric Train. Episode 2, Fairground at Night, Ferris Wheel. The Laughing Hussar, a song about hares. Episode 3, Road and Construction Site, Kalinka. My Little Suede Shoes. Entrance of the Gladiators. Episode 4, Stadium, King Winner. Cha-Cha-Cha, Jamaica. Brass Orchestra. Episode 5, City and Train Station, By the Long Road. O Sol Mio, El Choclo. Episode 6, Countryside Jazz was mowing clover. Jujalarum, Sabre Dance, at the Kolkhoz Poultry Farm. Episode 7, Sea Voyage, Only Us. Boat Dance, Balaton, Toy. Episode 8, New Year Celebration, Snow Maiden. Joker, Abanda, John Gray, Lo Compasita. Episode 9, Television Studio, Little Man. Tired Toys Are Sleeping. A priest had a dog. Caravan. Wheels. Upopo Bila Sobaka. The Football March. Episode 10. Construction Site and Hospital. Kazakok. Visota. Popcorn Eye. Blue is the Night. Striptease in Rhythm. Jolly March of the Builders. Meetings. Episode 11. Circus. In Treye March from Circus. Easy Livin'. Coming Closer. Popcorn. Trumpet and Muckle. Spinning Wheel. Episode 12. Museum. Lotto Zalin. Cornflakes. Drums A Go-Go. Zorba. On del Danubio. Triumphal March. Episode 13. Olympic Games. Flight of the Bumblebee. Cannonball. How High the Moon. Dolan's Melody. Moliendo Cafe. Train 45. Episode 14. The House of Young Technology. Petersburg an actor. Besame Mucho. Million a la Roz. Grass by the House. Get Up Action. Go-Go Yellow Screen. Bavarian Affair. The Beauty and the Beast. Shaky Wagon. Episode 15. The House of Culture. Iceberg. Swan Lake. Dance of the Swans. Beneath the Roof of Your House. Episode 16. In the World of Russian Folk Tales. C. Green Light. Komarovo. Episode 17. Exotic Land on Island. Korobushka. Don't Put Salt in My Wounds. Lombarda. March of Stalin's Air Force. Episode 18. Supermarket. Taganka. On the Hills of Manchuria. Hafanana. Episode 19. Airport and Beach. Episode 20. Dacha Community. Chocolate Bunny. Video games. New Pogodi has been adapted into a number of video games. In 1984, an LCD game titled New Pogodi was released in the Soviet Union. Between 2002 and 2010, the Russian video game company Soft Club released 5 different PC games based on the cartoon series.